Hi, it's Chris Grimm, and it's Deep Work Fast, and it's December. Don't know how that happened. So, today I am kicking off a series because there's a lot of people who seem to be experiencing a great deal of loss, and that could be the loss of a job. Um, their whole businesses and industries, of course, you might know, going through so much change, transformation. Some of that's good, some of it's not that great. And I see things changing very quickly. Part of the privilege of this job is seeing people through whatever they're going through at the time. And as much as I love to say that a lot of my coaching is, super positive and about growth and planning and high performance teams, that's true. But a lot of our coaching is with people who are experiencing this kind of change that feels bad. And then, of course, on top of it, people losing people, whether that's friends or loved ones. And then, of course, I just also think that this time of the year tends to bring on a lot of feels for people. And so it's all compounded and can create, for many people, a feeling of stuckness, maybe feelings of upheaval. If you've lost a job or you quit your job, this time of year can create for you some fear, right? Because we're spending a lot of money. On the holidays, on extra activities, maybe even vacation or something. So I just want to ground us for a minute and talk about this series because I published a blog yesterday. It is meaty. And my focus is helping you, whether you're in feelings of loss right now, or maybe you're on the backside of something, or maybe you're anticipating something, or maybe you're just around other people who are experiencing loss. I decided to give you 6 different methods, all of which on their own probably could have been their own blog, but instead I wrote one. I listed them for you so that you could see them almost as like an arsenal where with all these tools at your disposal, you can pick what you need when. And so for the next probably 3 or 4 weeks, I'm just going to focus on giving you those tools, talking about when and how to use them so that you can very intentionally accelerate yourself into a state of feeling like you're recovering, where you're getting hope, where you're shifting your energy on purpose, and maybe helping other people too. Although I want you to put your oxygen mask on first. So as you're reading it, as you're listening, I do want you to process for yourself. And then, like I said, you can, of course, refer the blog or these tools to other people, or if you're a manager or a leader or a parent or a partner, you can use them with another person. Okay, let's jump right in. Like I said, oftentimes when we experience major loss, it would be normal to experience a few things. So I'm going to give them some language. And if you've never heard them before, you might want to make note of it, or like I said, grab the blog, because it's important that you are understanding what happens to all humans when they experience loss. Like I said, sometimes it can be an experience of what feels like upheaval, right? It's such a big loss to you, or it's a thing that has multiple losses that are related to it. I'll give you an example because I'm coaching a lot of people. And so a lot of people, a lot of companies have done layoffs recently. Or reductions in force. That's what a RIF is. When that happens, people might get laid off, but that's not one thing, right? So the upheaval feelings, the untethered feelings, or the identity loss that comes with that is attached to multiple things related to that one, seemingly one thing, the layoff, right? It means, for many people, the compensation change, right? Like, I'm getting laid off, my pay's going to stop. So even if you're getting a package, the fear of when it's going to stop and not having something new is one piece of this. The other part is the identity attached to the title, attached to the company or the place, or your team or your role. So I want you to understand that if you're having all of these feelings, first of all, you're okay, and that would be normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And sometimes I have to spend time in coaching helping people understand that you're not broken, right? This is a normal reaction to something. So I just want you to know that. And if, like I said, you're a manager or a parent, a partner, and someone else is going through this stuff, I want you to understand that it's very, very real. And you cannot say to a person, get over it. That does not work. And I'm going to tell you why. So the goal should be to recover and heal what needs to be healed. I know that we're not used to using those words all the time. Sometimes women use them differently and more often than some men. I don't want to generalize because I think everybody's different. It depends on kind of how you grew up and what you learned in your home when loss occurred, right? So we watched that happen. And depending on how much loss you've experienced, you have patterns that you probably don't even know consciously around what it feels like when you have a real or perceived loss, which I want to talk about also, because sometimes we have very real, tangible loss. And then other times we're perceiving loss because we make meaning of a situation and we think we're losing maybe more than we are. Anyway, let's come back in here. So our goal is to help you recover by accelerating yourself through the phases that you are naturally going to experience when a loss occurs. Let me say that again. I want to help you recover faster, right? I want to help you recover from the worst, most intense feelings that you might be feeling that are creating that kind of upheaval feeling. And so that has with it some energy shift, but it also has some very tangible things and physical things you can do. So I'm going to ask Heather Mission Control to put up some slides for us because I want to remind you of something that you might know exists. It has two ways of looking at it. So a very long time ago, but still very relevant, there was a woman, a psychiatrist, a Swiss psychiatrist named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She has since passed. She was, really one of the creators of a model that is still used today in therapeutic practice, but also in coaching. And her book, I think the original was called Death and Dying. So Heather put the link in the chat. And what I'm showing you right now are actual images from the website so that if you click through later and capture this, or even now and capture it on another part of your browser, you will have this tool. Now, this is a tool that can be used in many ways. The first way I want you to use it is just to know that it exists. And because this was created for people who were experiencing death and dying, right? It really helps us understand first in a linear way, and then I'm going to show you in a more what we call spiral way of understanding the normal process that people go through, right? This is healthy. Might not always feel good, but it's healthy, friends. So you can see in the dying stages of dying model for the person who might be sick and then getting ready to transition, or you who might be a loved one or a friend. These are the stages that people go through. It starts over here on the left, if you see it, with shock, and then denial, and then anger and bargaining and depression. Sooner or later, getting to a part of acceptance, and then hopefully some hope is in there. So I want to show you the version of this model that we use a lot in corporate environments, and I want you to have it. So Heather, go ahead to the other one, the spiral. Thank you. Heather, can you make it a little smaller because it's really big on there? Maybe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Magic Heather, everybody. Okay, so the reason I'm showing you this version, but I'm giving you both in the link, is that I want you to think about this as a spiral. And it goes around over and over again. So when I say to you, I want to help you learn to recover faster, and I want to accelerate and give you tools so that you can help yourself and accelerate yourself through this. What I'm saying is that each one of us has a way that we experience loss. Some people process through each of these stages faster than others. Some people start in the shock and denial phase, and then they get to anger, and they might stay in anger for a really long time. Other people might process the anger and go to the bargaining stage or into a depression and stay there. So you can see how it goes around. I want you to understand it is part of our hard wiring. This is every human that you know has a version of this. And so I want you to understand that depending on how much change and loss you're experiencing in your life at any one time, definitely is a variable here. And you should know yourself, right? Because if you're experiencing a lot of things at one time, chances are you might not move through those spirals very quickly because you have a lot of them overlapping. And so I want you to get to know yourself. I'm showing you this tool because I find that one way we accelerate is by being aware of this, by learning how to label and name the stage that you're in. Even if you have multiple losses and changes at the same time, being able to say, for this one, I think I'm still angry, but for this thing, I think I'm getting to acceptance. That is healthy for you to be authentically connected to what's happening inside of you and to start to understand what your patterns are. You're an adult, I'm assuming, since you're watching this. So it's great, healthy for adults to know how do you process through this, know your own pace, know where you tend to get stuck, know where you get stuck and you can get yourself unstuck, know where you need help, right? And how long you'll tolerate being in any one place. This is all very, very healthy, good thinking that most of us did not learn in our homes. So I'm giving you this now because knowing about this, understanding that it's normal, takes the pressure off of you in those moments where you might be feeling ashamed or embarrassed that you are having these and you don't know how to talk about it with people. Maybe you're a person who wants to get over this really quickly, and even though you can't, you want to. And so you either make up stories or you pretend like it's not happening. All of that keeps you in this longer, by the way. So don't do that. I don't know how many times I say this to people that ignoring it, repressing it actually keeps it in there longer. There's a few other things that slow this down that I want you to note. One is being unclear about what's actually lost, right? What happens is that loss happens. And like I was saying, most people don't spend the time getting clear about what they actually feel like they're losing. They don't kind of dissect it well unless they have a therapist or a coach or someone who they can talk to that feels safe. What often happens is people gossip or they talk to sometimes even their spouse, their mother, their people close to them who are also affected by the change. And because of that, it's not a completely safe place to be like fully objective about it. And so what ends up happening is we have the actual change that is happening, but we're not naming it. And so what perceptions of ourselves and other people kind of get stuck in the mix. That keeps us stuck longer, by the way. It keeps you from getting through this and to acceptance and to the hope part that moves us forward. So I just want you to know that. I want you to be careful about talking about your change and who you're talking about it with it and taking on those stories that are not real. And even if they are real, they might not be helpful. The other thing I was going to say is I've met lots of people in 28 years doing this, and some people self-impose extra struggle and suffering on themselves by using coping mechanisms that keep you spiraling, right? One of which, and I know you guys are tired of me saying this, but it's very, very real, which is alcohol. Um, Usually, like, you might feel better for a little bit, but unfortunately, it is a depressant, and when you're in a situation like this, you don't really need more things to depress you. So I want you to be super careful about that. And the last thing I want to introduce to you today, which is a tool that some people make fun of. So often this is called affirmations. Um, and I know for a lot of people who, maybe you see on Instagram people saying, I am worthy and I am good and using affirmations. And for you, that feels silly. You don't want to do that. Also, there used to be some sketches on Saturday Night Live. I forget the character's name, but the person looked in the mirror and they would say all these good things to themselves to try and make them believe better about themselves. So forget all that and just hear me for a second. So what happens when we go through this process is that, like I said, we can move through it faster when we have clear thinking and when we have honored the memories of the thing we're losing, right? Like when we acknowledge the good and why it feels like a loss. So either journaling that or talking to someone objective about it, when we can start to honor those realities, here comes Shasta, your master coach. When we can start to honor those memories and also start to reframe the things that feel bad, well, then our brain can move forward, because you've probably heard me say this before, but we have a part of our brain and it's down here and it's called the amygdala, and that's our primal reptilian brain. And you've probably heard me say it, but if you haven't, let me remind you that the whole job of that thing is to protect us. So 24/7, that part of us is monitoring the environment for threats. And when we have loss that creates grief and sadness and anger and all of these emotions that you see here, that part of us wants us to get away from the bad. Right? We sometimes go into fight or flight mode and we panic because now, oh my God, this new reality feels bad to me and I've got to escape. And so what can happen is that part of our brain, I want you to understand, it does not know the difference between something that really happened in physical reality and something that you think. Let me say it again. This part of your brain does not know the difference between a real thing, like getting in a real car accident, or imagining a car accident. I'm not lying to you. You can look it up. The reptilian's brain is not made to do that. It's just made to react and keep us safe by triggering fight or flight and getting us out of situations that are bad. So if you're one of those people, and I know a lot of you, who tend to think negatively, who tend to be a person who goes to the bad and is always trying to either prevent bad things from happening, or you end up making decisions that get you in a cycle of more negativity or struggle or suffering. I just want you to know that part of your brain doesn't know what's real and what's not real. So it can keep you stuck in here longer, which is why affirmations, or call it reframing, or whatever you want to call, when we try to shift your thinking and your language to a more positive to neutral way of thinking and acting and speaking. So what I'm coaching you to do is start to understand that this is a tool that, if you haven't used it, it's very, very powerful, because it helps you reprogram your own brain. And it can help you learn how to recover faster from situations. Now, some of you might be saying, I know, but what if my parent died or my child? I hope that never happens, but I know it happens. Those are really hard, bad losses. Totally get it. I really do. And I am saying to you that these are some of the best tools that are out there. And when used with help or without, they can help you get unstuck. Because the last thing I'll say, because I'm over my 20 minutes or less, I say 20 minutes, I should call this, anyway, I'll shut up. Okay, I don't want you to get stuck in here. So thank you, Heather, for keeping that up. Everybody, like I said, this is a series. I'm going to come back into this next week and really dig into this reframing and affirmations piece. So you have a tool that you know how to use, regardless of what you call it, that I know for sure will help you get unstuck if you're feeling stuck, and help you feel more solid and more secure if you're feeling untethered or confused or upheaval or a loss of your identity, all of those things. All those things. Okay. I'm here for you. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Don't forget to click on that blog, and don't forget to click on the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross slides that I just showed you. Bye.